Hey 180 kids, it's your friend Zoe here. So today I'm really excited. We're going to share a story about two sisters. I have a sister. Do you? Yeah, growing up, sometimes my sister would want something and I would want the same thing, and we'd get in a kerfuffle about it, or there'd be a kerfuffle about it, I should say, or like, you know, I wanted a book and wanted to read it, and my sister wanted to read it at the same time. Sisters are funny. We are funny creatures, you know, and sometimes we fight about silly things and sometimes we fight about important things. Let's hear about these two sisters, Rachel and Leah. This is called The Girl Who No One Wanted. And if you guys don't have your storybook Bible, I want you to go and grab it right now. And this is page 17, okay? Go get that. So, there were once two sisters. The youngest sister, she was really beautiful. Her name was Rachel. But the oldest sister wasn't. And some people actually thought her quite ugly. Her name was Leah. Rachel was the kind of girl who would get invited to parties and chosen for the team, stuff like that, and everyone loved her. But poor Leah, no one hardly ever even noticed her. So one day, their cousin Jacob came to visit, or actually came to stay. And he was one of Isaac's sons, and he was on the run. And Jacob had stolen and cheated and made many enemies. And one of the people that he made an enemy was his own brother, and now he was hiding. So the funny thing is that Jacob, of all people, was the one that God gave a special promise to. The special promise that he had given his grandfather, Abraham: I will rescue the world through your family. But then, God chooses people we least expect, as we're gonna see. Anyway, Jacob stayed a long time working for his uncle Laban. And one day Laban said to Jacob, I've decided to pay you for your work. What would you like? A sudden thought struck him. How about one of my daughters? Interesting. Jacob looked at Rachel and he looked at Leah. Who would you choose? Of course, he chose Rachel. I'll work for 7 years for free, Jacob said, if I can marry Rachel. So Jacob worked for 7 years. At last, his wedding day had arrived. But that night, Laban played a nasty trick on Jacob. Instead of sending Rachel to marry Jacob, he sent Leah. Now, in those days, they didn't have electricity, so it was dark in their tents. And besides, women wore veils, and you couldn't see their faces properly. So Jacob suspected nothing. And the next morning, Jacob woke up. Ah! He screamed. His new wife, laying beside him, was there, but it wasn't Rachel. It was Leah. Jacob jumped out of bed. Laban, he cried, you scoundrel. But Laban said, work for me another 7 years and you can marry Rachel. So Jacob worked for another 7 years for Laban, and at last Rachel became his wife. Now, Jacob had 2 wives, but of his 2 wives, Jacob loved Rachel the best. No one loves me, Leah said. I'm too ugly. But God didn't think she was ugly. And when he saw that Leah was not loved and that no one wanted her, God chose her to love her specially, to give her a very important job. One day, God was going to rescue the whole world through Leah's family. Now, when Leah knew that God loved her in her heart, suddenly it didn't matter anymore whether her husband loved her the best or if she was the prettiest. Someone loved her and had chosen her with a never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, and always forever love. And you see, you'll never guess what God gave Leah and what job God gave Leah. You see, when God looked at Leah, he saw a princess. And sure enough, that's exactly what she became. One of Leah's children's children would be a prince, the Prince of Heaven, God's son. This prince would love God's people, and they wouldn't need to be beautiful for him to love them. He would love them with all of his heart, and they would be beautiful because he loved them, just like Leah. And just the same way he loves you. And it doesn't matter if he loves your sister, he loves you just as much. All right, 180 kids, see you later.